I'm going to take eject a seat from Scotland, going right up to my neck of the woods, who wants to talk about the blatant lack of care for humanity on the whole. Eject a seat, hello.
Hello. Yeah, so it's not too common in the UK anymore, but I've noticed in America, especially with people like Kent Hovind and other evangelicals like him, there seems to be a blatant lack of regard for humanity. For example, Kent Hovind had a little boy drown at his theme park, and his consolation to the family was giving them free tickets back. And there's a shocking amount of like the same kind of behavior, like whether it be to use someone associated with the Hovinds again. What's his name? The annoying twink.
Matt Powell. Is that the one?
That's him. I like how you knew how I was talking.
I don't know how I got it from that description.
that was pretty good. I think telepathy might be a thing.
But he's openly said a few times, I don't support the death of the LGBTQ community, but it says that they should be killed, and that's the government's job. And I would never oppose the government. And there's like a disturbing amount of people who agree with stuff like that. And like, where does humanity go when it comes to people like that?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, we cover lots of stories like that on the non-profits as an organization, the ACA. Aaron, I'm sure you look at these stuff, the articles and stuff on the non-profits all the time. You're probably more up to date with kind of the latest craziness that's going off in this area. Do you want to speak on it a little while?
It's pretty crazy. It can be pretty grim sometimes. I think I don't know. I'm not sure how to combat it. It's pretty disgusting when people, take opinions like that, where they want to attack people and hurt people for just who they are, just because they don't agree. I don't know why people just can't let people, why they can't mind their own business and live their own lives and let other people live theirs the way they want to live them. I think the only way I'm combating here by trying to be by being on this show and speaking a voice and having a voice, being on the nonprofits, having a voice, putting it out there on YouTube and out in the world to hopefully combat those bad, atrocious ideas. Hopefully we can all find some way of combating them in our own way that uses our talents and the abilities that we have. It's pretty awful.
Yeah, check to see.
There's also.
Sorry, go on.
Were you going to say something?
No, I was just inviting you to speak.
I was going to say, like, I used to be. So I had a kind of weird experience growing up in Christianity. I was Catholic, but I live in Glasgow, and I was surrounded by a bunch of old Irishmen who weirdly know how to use a rifle. I'm sure you can connect the dots. So I wasn't really taught much about like how to be compassionate to other people, and I was quite violently homophobic when I was younger. But I then started to realize that like humans are humans, and like everyone should be loved. It's also about the same time I realized I was a bit more like Freddie Mercury than I thought. So I decided, like, I had left the church, and then I realized, like, seeing all of this, like the stuff you were talking about, people like the Hovinds, evangelicals in America, why don't more people realize that, like, it doesn't matter who you are. There's very few humans who like deserve the treatment that so many evangelicals are willing to get. Also, Blind Limeade just correctly. Oh wait, no, it's because I said I was from Glasgow. Never mind. I'm reading the chat. I thought he just guessed from the accent.
Yeah, can I just clarify? When you say you're a bit more like Freddie Mercury, do you mean you have a mustache? I'm sure that's what you meant there.
Amazing singing voice. Amazing singing voice. That's what it is. Sing a few bars for us.
There is, look, this, and there are people of lots of, I've been privileged, and I do say that genuinely. I honestly do mean that, to have been the guest of many different religious people. I've been a visitor to mosques. I've been a visitor to Buddhist temples, and you do get to see some, sometimes when you get out of these kind of public displays of stuff, I've sat above a mosque drinking tea with Muslims when the talk has turned to kind of kafirs, which means non-believers, and it's not always pretty. And sometimes religious people do have these ideas that are informed specifically by their religion, which is important to point out, that, they take on these things and they want to personify them, especially when they see them as being good things to imitate. And, you only have to look at the first caller we had tonight when he was spewing other people's opinions. And yes, indeed. And, when you're spewing other people's opinions, it's very, it's very hard to kind of always assess what you're thinking about and talking about, because you're repeating stuff. And this is stuff that's not necessarily doing that. Imitation is part of who we are as humans. So, we should be careful not to criticize someone for copying someone's opinion as such, because we all do it. We all get attracted. You can see in our community people who say, well, I agree with this person who is a host on the show, and I agree with that. We tend to mirror the people we admire or the people we want to imitate and things. It happens all the time. I did it when I was younger, when I wanted to be a rock star, and I grew my hair long and dyed it black and wanted to wear fucking leather trousers like Nikki Sixx because I wanted to imitate that. So we do it. It's the human being does that kind of thing. We do that all the time. The problem arises when that imitation and pushing that forward, like you say, causes problems for other people. When it comes to lacking care for other people in humanity, and when a church or a religious organization is pushing that as an ideology, then it becomes really, really problematic, because these are things that a lot of people have. I mean, I didn't grow up religious, but a lot of people have grown up religious, so they've got this identity which they might have, and they might be lovely people. They might have, you said you grew up in the Catholic Church. My wife grew up in the Catholic Church. Yeah. And, I know a lot of my wife's family are really, really lovely people. They have this identity, which is informed by their religion. And then when you get those people of authority, those people you look up to in the pulpit spewing bile, you then get these internal conflicts that are going off. And it's really, really important to be a person who can assess your own opinion and separate it from that. And if you have conflict, and this is where religions are at fault, and I think most religions are at fault of this, when people have conflict within religious organizations, when they're part of a religious organization, this goes through Buddhism, it goes for Hinduism, it goes for Islam, it goes for Christianity. The advice given to them is take the advice of the community, take the advice of your religious leader, stay away from the advice of outsiders. And that's very, very, it's a very dangerous kind of aspect to go through, to when you're in that situation, to be told that and have that reinforced when you've already got this identity. You can really, really give it can really give this idea of lacking for care of humanity, even if you are a good person, because a lot of the time you suppress that to show that you're part of the community, to say, look at this religious community, I'm part of you. Look at this. My identity is strong within you. Black people, gay people, trans people, on them because my religious community is telling me they are wrong. And that is where the problem arises. That's why it's so important to have people come along. We've had 2 religious callers tonight. The first one was interested in only other people's opinions and spewing their bile. The second one was interested in a genuine conversation. And that is why platforms like this are so very, very important. So we can say to the second category of caller who we've had tonight, you are doing a great job. You have just done something amazing. I don't agree with you. I don't agree with your religious values necessarily. I don't agree with your the opinion that a God exists, but I agree with the fact that you are willing to have these conversations and listen. And most importantly, when something comes up that you don't understand or that gets you thinking, to be honest and say, stop, I want to think about that. Ejector seat, I'm going to let you respond to that, then I'm going to let Aaron talk for a little bit because I've talked for quite a while.
Thank you. So I do want to just appreciate what you said at the last bit there. I love callers like the second one, people who are genuinely interested in having a normal discussion or who want to learn more. Like I wear a pride pin. If someone walks up to me and asks what that is, or asks what the atheist patch on my vest means, or any of my other patches, I love to indulge them. But when people, I've had a few people try to take a swing at me because a few of my badges, they can, for a lack of a better term, go fuck themselves. And I'm so glad the world is filled with people like that second caller, and the first one is more of a rarity that we can kind of shove off into the side. Anyway, Aaron, please.
Yeah, so I think at our core as a species, we are social, we are tribal, right? We need our tribes to survive, and without our tribes, if we get kicked out of our tribes, we won't survive. And so in the modern day, we're not really well equipped to understand this because we don't necessarily need our tribes like we did, tens of thousands of years ago. And so if your tribe is your church, and as Richard was saying, if your church is preaching doctrines XYZ, well, you better believe doctrines XYZ or you could be out of your community. And our desire to not die by being ostracized by our community kicks in. And that's why it's really easy for leaders to use fear and to use the threat to keep us in that community no matter what. And so it's really important that we as we're out in the world, that we recognize when people are trying to use fear and threat to control us because they're hooking into our tribalism, and realize that, no, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to survive, but no matter what. And hearing your story, Ejector Seat, made me think that a lot of times people have these poor opinions, let's say, about other groups that aren't them, that they don't understand, simply because they don't know somebody from that group. And usually once somebody knows somebody and becomes friends with somebody who's a different gender, a different race, a different church, a different whatever, they suddenly will tend to decrease their negative opinions about that group. And so if we want to combat these types of things, we need to stay away from people that preach fear, and we need to go out there and get to know as many different types of people at as diverse a crowd as we can, so that we can begin to understand other people and their viewpoints and where they're coming from, because then we'll start to realize that there is no single tribe. We're a global species now, and that is the tribe, is the global human race.
Yeah. Also, I'm probably going to get away now because this show's for theists to call in. But thank you so much for having me. Thanks
for calling in.
I've been watching AXP for years now, and first show of Talk Heathen, and I get in first time. So thank you.